Hello. Now's the time you've got to put your audio unit on. I want to do this slightly different. I'm not going to present. What I want to do is dictate a letter. And I'd like the members of the press to help me write it in Spanish. Oops. The letter starts. Dear Presidente Sebastián Pinera, we do not need more United Nations reports. We do not need more headlines. We don't need the IPCC to write another terrific paper. We need action! We need action! It's called an emergency. And we're all sitting here talking while the planet is dying. 4 years since Paris, CO2 is still rising. What action do we need? Government action. Regulation. It's not going to be saved because the consumer will start to buy less plastic. Because the supermarkets are full of plastic. This consumer does not have a choice today because the supermarkets are full of plastic. It won't be saved by business. And I've been a CEO for 25 years. My number one priority as a CEO, to give shareholder profits. Yours, Mr. President, is to protect this country and this environment. That's your job, Mr. President, not mine as a CEO. Regulation works. Can you imagine, only 25 years ago, you used to fly to Madrid and 35% of the people were smoking. It's only 25 years ago. And yet now, you would not dream of that. Not because you don't smoke. It's because regulation doesn't allow you to do that. That did not happen because the CEOs of the airline industry woke up one day and said, let's protect the 65% of the population who don't smoke on the plane. No. It was because governments regulated don't smoke on a plane because passive smoking will kill you and you'll get sued. That's why it stopped. Because the CEOs of the airline industry never thought of it. Never thought of it. You know, I'm one of the good CEOs. You know, I do my bit. 2 years ago, as the CEO of WOM, I made my team pick up 10 tons of litter from the beach with the summer parties that we did. 10 tons of litter were picked up. You know what happened last year? You couldn't see any difference. The litter was there. The plastic was there. Rapa Nui is still drowning in plastic because we didn't stop it at source. Because business doesn't want to change that much. It wants to do a little bit of greenwashing. We want to feel good as CEOs, so we employ sustainability directors. Make me feel good. I'll pick up some plastic. I feel good for about a month. And then I see the plastic there again. But I'm a believer in business. I've done it for 25 years. The human being can do amazing things. "50 years ago, before the iPhone, before Facebook, 50 years ago, we put a man on the moon. A man on the moon 50 years ago, when even I was only fucking 10 years old. We put a man on the moon.
One small step for man.
That's what mankind can do.
One
when we're focused, when we want to make it happen. But you know what I saw yesterday? You know what we did yesterday? We put a lettuce in a plastic bag yesterday. How can we, 50 years ago, put a man on the moon and yesterday capture a really aggressive lettuce and put it in a plastic bag? We have known for 5 years what plastic is doing. That will end up strangling some turtle in the next 2 years, or the next 1,000 years, or the next 10,000 years. Where did humanity's creativity and technology go? If that's as good as we can get. But it isn't. We can do much better than that if we want to, if we are regulated to. The technology is there. That's my frustration. That's what you hear from the young people today. They know the technology is there. We can transform the power industry. Chileans, 5,000 kilometers of coastline. As much sun as you can have in the Atacama. As much wind as you want to have in the Patagonia. And yet you've got 41% of your fuel is fossil fuels? You're not trying. And yet I know you can do it. I know I've employed 2,000 talented Chileans. The technology is there. The agriculture, you don't even need to raise a cow anymore. You can do that in the laboratory. That's where technology is taking us. Let's use it. Because we're business people. But yes, use it to save the planet and to create jobs that our kids want. They don't want to work down a coal mine. They want to work in these sorts of industries. That's what they want. And then I hear, show me the money. Yeah? Oh, Chris, it'll be really expensive. You can't expect that. We're Chile. Is it expensive? In 2008, those sensible countries called America and Europe printed billions and billions of dollars to save what? 150 bankers? We found the money. We found the money. The money's there. Yes. I'm hearing a lot of the dark side say, the money's not there because we don't want to spend it. It is there. And it's starting to be invested in the right industries, in sustainable industries, because that's what it takes. Tell me, should a pension fund invest in fossil fuels? We've known since Paris, fossil fuels kills people. And yet we allow our pension funds to take low-income people's money and we invest it in fossil fuels that kills the customers. Wow. Yeah, that's a really profitable circular economy. But it's changing. The world's biggest sovereign wealth fund in Norway, which I accept got to $1 trillion. I don't even know how many zeros is in a trillion. But $1 trillion of a sovereign wealth fund in Norway is no longer allowed to invest in fossil fuels. And they have to divest $200 billion that they've already got in there from fossil fuels. That's happening. Are we doing it here in Chile? Oh no, we're thinking of knocking down and destroying a forest in Patagonia and building a coal field. How can you do that? There's no need to do that. You should not morally do that. But I say the money is there. Because the money is no longer in fossil fuels. If you end up building that Patagonian coal mine, in the next 10 years, you will feel morally corrupt. You may have the permits to build that coal mine, but have you got the moral responsibility to build it? Because your kids don't want to work in a coal mine. They want to work in renewables. And your kids will sue you, whoever owns that coal mine. The same as Germans are suing their pension funds. BlackRock, a big investment company, lost $91 billion US by investing in fossil fuels. So the money is no longer in fossil fuels. It's in renewables. That's the future. And that's the future that our kids want. Oops. Oh, okay. Because our kids want jobs. Our kids want jobs in the growth areas. They want to be able to feel good about themselves. That's the right thing to do. The future is in that. It's in sustainable industries. Let's invest in them. Back in the 18th century, it was a steam generation. England did very good on that. Then we had the car propulsion, combustion engine. Then we had the jet age. Then we had the internet age. The next 10 years, it's about the sustainable age. It is not about investing in coal-fired power stations. It is not about doing coal mines. Lead the business leaders of Chile. And Mr. President, make sure that you are ambitious in making your people want to lead in this area. Yeah. The need is there, Mr. President. Your Atacama is losing water. The flamingos are not going to be there for your grandchildren to watch any longer unless you stop taking water away from the Atacama. Santiago's air pollution is a disgrace, Mr. President. It's a disgrace. So the need is there. Your biodiversity is being lost in the lakes because of the overuse of pesticides and biocides in your industry. And your incessant planting of only pine trees or eucalyptus trees is killing the biodiversity. Do we, as human beings, have a moral right to do that? We know planting one type of tree kills 80% of the biodiversity, and yet we continue to plant one type of tree and do it with impunity because we can. That needs to be changed. And it can be changed. As I said, the future very much is in sustainability. The citizens' knowledge is growing. That's the good news. People are becoming aware that there is a choice. They're actually demonstrating in the streets of Europe because they want that choice. So the citizens are becoming aware. But I have to say to the media here, Mr. President, your Chilean media do not talk and educate enough about the emergency that we are having to face here in Chile. So the citizens' knowledge in Chile should rise, needs to rise. And the media, Mr. President, has its role to play in that, both the TV and the newspapers. They want to learn, but you need to teach. And therefore, the citizens' knowledge needs to increase. The innovation is there. We could talk all day, but I've only got 15 minutes, 20 minutes, about how much innovation we could invest in. My personal satisfaction and belief in Chile, I've done 10 countries. I've done 10 WOMs. The most successful of my 10 Chile. Why was it the most successful? Because the talent in Chile is second to none. I've lived and worked in Sweden. I've lived and worked in Singapore. I've lived and worked in Poland. I've lived and worked in Austria. And I have not seen talent better than here. You have the innovation. The last 6 months, I've met so many organizations with so many great ideas that they've implemented. But they don't have the money. They don't have the investment. Or the dark side kills them before they take off. Because the dark side doesn't want to change. Now, Mr. President, I urge you, don't listen to the dark side. The dark side said Chileans are okay paying 22,000 pesos per gigabit. Yeah? Only 4 years ago, that's what you used to pay for your mobile phone. 4 years later, 2. The dark side were wrong 4 years ago, and the dark side are wrong now. Chile needs you to be ambitious, and it needs you to make the regulations required for an emergency. As a CEO, Mr. President, I will not be anti-competitive against Entel, Movistar, or Claro. I will do some nice stuff, but I cannot lose my competitiveness. That's what regulation does. It evens the playing field to allow me to compete on a fair playing field with my other competitors. And that's what we need. And the innovation to do that is available in Chile today. There is an enormous amount of technology out there. The agriculture is being transformed. Transportation is being transformed. Everything the consumer wants, there is a sustainable action. And yet, I go to Starbucks and I get given a plastic straw. Where's the innovation there? It's not being used. So we need to engage with the innovation that exists. We need to listen to the scientists, not listen to business, including me, because I have a vested interest, Mr. President. My interest is to my shareholders. Your interest, Mr. President, is to protect Chile for the next generations. And at the moment, we're in danger of that not happening. Because the speed of climate change, the ferocity of climate change is phenomenal. The Antarctic is dying. The Arctic is on fire. We cannot sit around and wait for another UN report. We need action. We need it now. The pieces of the jigsaw are there. That's my frustration. That's, I think, the UN's frustration. The pieces of the puzzle are there. But there's two elements missing. Social change is the polite word. The other word is climate justice. I'm a rich guy. I can fly. My carbon footprint is bigger than a low-income person's. So we have to take that into account when we bring in the government policies necessary. What do I mean by that? Well, my house is well insulated. So if there's a carbon tax, which there probably should be, on fossil fuels, and it shouldn't be $4 like it is here, that's just a petty tax. It probably needs to be about $50 to $100 based on the UN. But of course, if you're low income and your house is not insulated, we need to make sure you get your house insulated. We can reduce your heating bill by 70%. That's climate justice. Another climate justice. Low income people, but even I, go to work on public transport. That's the most efficient way of going to the office from a carbon footprint viewpoint. But that bus that people wait for in the cold is late. It doesn't take 20 minutes for them to get to the office. It takes 40 minutes. Why does it take 40 minutes? Because of all the single occupancy SUV cars coming from Odessa, slowing down the public transport system. Those people with a low carbon footprint who went by bus so that our kids can breathe are late because the bus is held up by single passenger SUVs driving into Santiago. Charge more, like we do in Europe. Single passenger SUVs, charge them money if they want to do that, and put that money into public transport. The policies are there. They're common sense, but it does need action to do it. Those social change policies go hand in hand with the investments that we need. And I know, looking out here, everybody's thinking, oh, fuck, I've got an SUV and yeah? You're all now thinking, come on, who wants to go in my car? I've got to drive back to Odessa. Yeah? Doesn't that make you feel guilty? It makes me feel guilty. That's why I'm on stage. That's why I'm cycling 5,000 kilometers, because I feel guilt-ridden. And I need to inspire people to change. More importantly, Mr. President, I need to inspire you to change and you to take action. Because the big missing piece is ambition, Mr. President. This will not be done by the consumer taking one less shower per week. That's not going to save us water. It's not going to save the planet. It's not going to save the Atacama. You need to be ambitious. You need ambitious regulation and you need ambitious funding policies. And you need leadership. You will have the privileged position of being the president of COP25, I believe, Chile. Mr. President, you have to use that. You will hear from the dark side, Chile's too small to make a difference. It's all to do with China and America. That's what you will hear. We don't need to change much. We can still build that coal mine in Patagonia. What's a few trees? Mr. President, you cannot negotiate with China and America and have a dirty home in Chile. The only way, Mr. President, you can demand anything from China and Russia and America is for you to make sure Chile is clean, for you to make sure Chile is doing morally the right thing and legally the right thing for your grandchildren, Mr. President. Because you will be judged. The great news, Mr. President, you have this opportunity to make a difference. Wow! Fantastic timing. You, President Sebastián Piñera, are the man. Take the opportunity. Change Chile. Because if you don't change Chile and you lose the Antarctic, or you lose those flamingos, or people start to die in the bad air of Santiago, people will remember that President Sebastián Piñera was the president in 2019 at the COP25. And you did not listen to the scientists. You listened to business. Because business will not give you the answer. Business will give you the answer that they want. You, Mr. President, need to deliver what Chile wants and what the younger generation wants. She's lucky in many ways. She's lucky in the fact that she's only 16. She did not cause this problem. My generation, the generation sitting there, caused the problem. She's unlucky because she cannot change it. She's 16. She can inspire, she can influence, but she doesn't make government decisions. Presidente Sebastián Pinera, you do make decisions. You did cause this problem, the same as I did. But great, you have the opportunity to make a difference, to actually make real change here in Chile and the rest of the world. Please take it. 18 million Chileans want you to do it, minus a few of the dark side. But the opportunity is there. But this is not because you're right-wing, Mr. President, or because you're left-wing. This is beyond politics. This is beyond business. This is beyond the dark side. It's much bigger than that. It's not a left-wing or a right-wing issue, but it needs to be done now. You have the opportunity, Mr. President. I urge you, as a person who's chosen to live in Chile, please take it. Please take it. That is the best news if you take it for your reputation. You can be the man, Mr. President, that saved the Antarctic. Do not be known as the person who had all the information, who had all the scientists saying what is needed, and you chose to close your eyes. That surely cannot be the legacy that you want, Mr. President. Yours sincerely, Chris Bannister. Thank you.